Commandant, I am humbled, honored to pay tribute to the life of Terrell Horne III. He served under my command here in the 11th District on board the Coast Guard Cutter Halibut, as you heard, as Executive Petty Officer on that fateful December 2nd evening, 2012. Terrell's loss was one of the hardest things I've endured as a commander in any capacity in 36 years. His memory lives on with me. It lives on with all of us in attendance today. It lives on across the Coast Guard. I didn't have the privilege of knowing Terrell very well. Matter of fact, I met him the Wednesday before that fateful Saturday night. I visited his ship, and it was clearly apparent that that guy was the center of gravity of that crew. He was the XPO. The sun rose and set around the XPO and the development of the crew members and the shipmates and the caliber of those human beings. I remember the remarkable bravery he displayed that night, and I remember just how his shipmates held him in esteem and high regard for the man he was, for the Coast Guardsman he was. He died safeguarding Americans from the scourge of illicit narcotics and illegal smuggling of other commodities here right off the coast of Southern California. Our nation is more secure today because of Terrell Horne III. The father of our Coast Guard, the Secretary of Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, said, "There's a certain enthusiasm in liberty that makes human nature rise above itself in acts of bravery and heroism." As Terrell knew and demonstrated, being a Coast Guardsman is more than donning a uniform or an emblem. And Terrell donned this uniform with tremendous pride. That was clear if you look through his service record. Impeccable. Being a Coast Guardsman, also a devotion to a higher calling. And it's a willingness to join the long blue line who protect, defend, and save, and shield our nation and its people at any and all costs. In the months and years following Terrell Horne's death, I've had conversations with various family members about the possibility of this day, about bringing a ship into service bearing his name. And here we are. Chap said great words, and I got to tell you, there's some divine intervention. I feel like God's smiling down on us as his Senior Chief Horne, and this is just a special moment being here. As we commission the 31st Fast Response Cutter in Senior Chief Terrell Horne's honor. Terrell's legacy of selfless leadership and courage is henceforth indelibly stamped in our service's rich history. Senior Chief Horne is a modern hero, with shipmates he served alongside still in service. His legacy bridges our contemporary history with the yet-to-be history of this remarkable and highly capable ship. The crew has adopted the motto for this ship: courage, honor, sacrifice. And I admire that selection, as it symbolizes the ethos of its namesake. This motto is emblazoned on Cutter Terrell Horne's seal. It captures the heart, the mindset for the eager crew that will soon be operating their cutter in execution of our nation's homeland security, defense, and rescue missions. I look at this cutter that bears Senior Terrell Horne's name, a name recognized and revered across the service, and I am humbled. This ship is a visible symbol of everything our service stands for, everything. And a reminder of Terrell's commitment to his nation and his crew. A reminder of his courage, honor, and sacrifice. Truly, truly noble attributes. You know his story, for those that don't know. Born in Mountain View, California in October 1978. Graduated from Patterson High School with a love of the water and a desire to help people. I think he found the right calling. After enlisting in the Coast Guard in 1999, he was a bosun mate. He served at stations Admiral, North Carolina, Humboldt Bay, California, and Charleston, South Carolina. Also sailed aboard the 378-foot high endurance cutter Dallas and ended up as XPO aboard Coast Guard Cutter Halibut right here in Southern California. Throughout his career, Terrell profoundly impacted the crew and leaders at each of his units. From the beginning, he demonstrated that selfless leadership, those special traits that define the best of Coast Guard men and women. Even as a seaman, Terrell was commended for going above and beyond going above and beyond training his shipmates, fellow boat crew members. And that devotion was apparent at every turn of his 14-year Coast Guard career. He was a leader who set aside his own needs to support the needs of others. And we know the story. As I recall, December 2nd, 2012, investigating unlinked vessel suspected of smuggling narcotics. When halibut small boat approached, the suspect vessel unexpectedly turned and ran down the small boat. His final action was putting himself between that approaching small boat and his shipmates. Without hesitation or concern for himself, he reached forward into the imminent danger. And in his efforts to protect his shipmates, Terrell was fatally injured. Senior Chief Horne put himself before others. On this night, he made the ultimate sacrifice in service of his nation. Throughout that 14-year career, he selflessly served others. He stood to watch on the front lines each and every one of those 14 years of the aforementioned assignments, with a dedication of duty that allows us to hold to our motto of Semper Paratus, always ready. For his courage and heroism, posthumously awarded the Coast Guard Medal and advanced to Senior Chief Petty Officer. He's a hero of the highest caliber who epitomized selfless leadership. Today, as we commission this cutter, Terrell's service and sacrifice will be deeply ingrained into the fabric of our Coast Guard, into the fabric of our Coast Guard history. He is an inspiration to every man and woman, from every Coast Guardsman who had the privilege to serve alongside, for those who didn't but have heard the story of his heroism, and to every Coast Guard man and woman who will henceforth serve aboard this fine ship. To the plank owners, I congratulate all of you for this distinction, this honor, to serve aboard this great ship in this fine home port. You are the lifeblood of this newly commissioned vessel.